last year was just kind of, I was coming off my final Kona the October prior. I knew I wanted to try these two new things, ultra running and gravel cycling, a little more seriously. I'd done a couple events, mostly on the gravel side, but it was like, okay, I want to give this a go. Both of them are just exploding right now, and competition level and just, yeah, those two sports are just going off. And I was like, this is cool. I love following them. I want to be a part of this. And so it was almost, yeah, I kind of just had more of a not relaxed season because I was training as hard as I could. It was more like, okay, let's give this a go. And these are the main events. I was in the Lifetime Grand Prix, and then these are the big trail races I wanted to hit. We made it to both Western States and UTMB last year, which are the two kind of biggest right now. And it was just a really cool year of learning and kind of dipping my toe in. And I think I walked away like with so many things of like, oh my God, if only I had done this different at this one, this different at this one. I could have been more prepared in this way, and so I came into this year almost, my schedule is pretty similar. Just having that kind of, yeah, personality of like, okay, I did these last year. I want to improve. I want to show up and do better than I did last year and see maybe some progress. So I'm coming in this year with kind of that mindset. To your question, I'm definitely focused back on Unbound again and Western States, both in June. Those are kind of two races that, yeah, I really want to show up ready for and see if I can have better days at. Western States last year, I had a tough fall about mile 40-ish and rolled an ankle, pulled a hamstring, and didn't make it to the track in Auburn. So that one is, I need to make it to that track 100 miles later. And Unbound, I've had a couple of mechanical issues the last 2 years. So that one, I think if I can just get through that one unscathed, I think that sort of race suits me, that length, that long of a day, the distance, the type of riding. So I'm certainly preparing throughout the spring with other events, but those are the two I'm focused on right now.
And because it sounds like you're someone who really takes that specificity of training approach for specific events. So for Unbound, have you been getting out and running in like mid shin deep mud this winter with a bike that weighs like 50 pounds? Because I've done it before myself. What's it like for you? Have you been preparing for that?
Exactly. That's the training. We're gonna hit Mid-South in 3 weeks as well. Like hopefully it'll be a super muddy day. Get that practice day in as well, carrying the 100 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Great clay-based mud down there in Mid-South, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, the red mud. No, that's fantastic. So, I mean, you've done a lot of different sports at an extremely high level. I definitely want to talk a little bit about hockey. But when you made this pivot into gravel and into ultra running, I feel like when people are doing new things, it can go one of two ways. One, because they don't really know what their limits are in a new discipline, I'm sure, like, who the players are and like who the real hitters are when you go out there, and you hadn't raced against all of those people. So you don't have that kind of internal compass of like, oh, when this person's doing that, that means this for me. So for you, did you kind of feel like blank slate? I feel like this is going to go pretty well. Or were you more in the camp of I'm kind of anxious because I do know a little bit about these people and this is new?
Yeah, that's so true. In that, like, you're new, you have no idea, and it was almost better because, yeah, you have no expectations. You don't really know. More so for me on the trail running side, have any idea what you're doing. I just, like, every race, I just would go out and just start running, and I didn't know, yeah, a lot of the. I knew, like you're saying, some of the people I've followed in the sport or followed at some of those bigger races, but other than that, yeah, it was a blank slate. And same on the gravel racing side. I knew kind of some of the bigger names, but not really like how they ride or who's known to say attack or ride a certain way. And so it was definitely, yeah, just a learning experience every single race last year. And that's why I'm excited coming into this year. It's like, I feel like I have a better idea on some of those things, and know that coming in, and can hopefully, yeah, improve on with that knowledge, improve this year.
And for amateurs who are going out and doing these events, it often has this existential component of it's expanding their sense of what's possible for themselves, who they are, what they can do. For you, as someone who's been an extremely high level athlete for most of your life, are you still learning things about yourself when you go out and do events like Western States and Unbound?
Oh, completely. I mean, that's partly why I made the switch over. I mean, I had been doing triathlon for so long, or it was starting to just feel like I was kind of on repeat and doing kind of the same thing, same races, just kind of showing up, and I didn't really have that, I guess, passion anymore or excitement for it because I had done it so many times. Here we go again, same thing, same routine, try to hit the same paces for the same amount of time at these same courses. And for me now, it's like I feel, yeah, like a brand new student just starting all over again. And every single event, like anything can happen. I still don't know what I'm doing with the two sports, like as someone just, yeah, a year under my belt. Like you certainly learn a lot, but I'm not this experienced 20-year bike racer. Yeah, in the same position that I was on the triathlon side. So for me, it's just, yeah, what can I do? I mean, I have competed as an athlete at a high level for a long time, but not in these two sports. And I stand on the start lines feeling like a complete beginner, like looking around me at all the superstars that I've followed. And it's one of those things where you stand there and you're like, okay, you have to convince yourself like you're okay to be here. You're okay to be on the start line next to these other women and see what you can do. And that's what's exciting because there's no expectations. There's not a lot of history of like, okay, I did this here last year or 10 years ago, like how triathlon was getting. It's anything can happen, and I want to see what I can do.
Yeah. And when I think about something like specifically like race day, so with triathlon, again, you had so many reps of exactly what that process is like, probably knowing where everything in your gear bag is, what's going in the transition zones. Now that you're doing these professional gravel and ultra running events, they're professional and it's quite different. You know, you have to have your partner or your team get out there and find those feed zones or neutral zones. You don't always know what's going to happen if somebody gets lost. Uh, you know, you're in different host housing or Airbnbs in different towns. Would you mind just like, could you like take me through like the morning of Unbound or the morning of Western States, like minute by minute, like what time are you getting up and what happens? And like, what's your level of nervousness or arousal or not? Or are you totally calm?
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Well, let's say hypothetically they both start at 6. I think they're both somewhere around there, but 6 a.m. I would probably set my alarm for 4, I would think, 4 a.m., maybe 3:45. I get up, I wake up, my husband brings me coffee. He spoils me every single morning. So I drink coffee for about 15, 20 minutes, get up, get my kid on or my running clothes, make breakfast. I usually have either 2 pieces of sourdough toast with peanut butter and banana or maybe oatmeal if I feel I need something a little bit heavier, maybe for like an Unbound. Also, not running at Unbound, you can have a little bit more fiber, so oatmeal is okay. So that would be about, yeah, 4:30 ish. Eat till, yeah, 4:20 to 4:45 ish. I have everything ready the night before, so I'm not in the morning like fiddling with anything. It's more just everything is literally laid out or in the van already to drive to the start. For say an Unbound, my husband will drive over with kind of the packs, all this stuff ready for the aid stations, and my warm up will be the ride over to the start line. So if it's a 6 a.m. start, I'll probably leave the Airbnb around like 5 ish. I found it very, very quickly. I found out that it was important for me to get a good warm up in with these because from the gun, they're just like hard effort. So to get my heart rate up earlier, it's almost like the swim start of the tries. Like, so probably leave the house 5:10, get a 20-minute warm up in, 5:10 to 5:30 ish, and then try to be on that start line. It depends on some of these races. Some of them I found like they don't call up certain fields. So you have to line up to get your starting spot kind of near the front, or else you're 300 people back. So depending on that, Unbound, we were able to start near the front. So you could kind of roll to the start line a little bit later. So maybe an extended warm up there, but get to the start line like 5:40, 5:45 ish. And then, yeah, 15 minutes of waiting.
And then it's a lot of fun. So I mean, as you mentioned, you and your husband you're a team. You work extremely closely together, like both on the business and marketing side, as well as when it's race day, getting out there and doing the event. Would you mind talking a little bit about, just being in a relationship, being married can be really challenging for almost everyone. So when you bring all of those professional elements into it, what kind of pressure does that put on your relationship, and how does it like also make it stronger?
Yeah, I mean, it's made it stronger because we've literally been able to live this life together, sharing things we love to do and making it work as like a living a career together for the last 15 years. And it's been, yeah, I feel so grateful and so fortunate to have been able to live this journey. I mean, I met Wadi, my husband. I was just out of school. I was 23. So I've been with him since then, and he's guided my entire career in terms of, yeah, just like he comes from a professional cycling background as well. So he has the riding side. He taught me so much on the biking side, as well as just overall like training and racing tactics. But early on, just guiding, okay, let's not step up to the full distance in triathlon yet. Like you're so young. Let's focus on the half distance right now. Like let's he does all my sponsor stuff, all my marketing, just something that as a 23-year-old, I would have had no idea. And even later on, 28, 30, like through my career, being a step ahead on that marketing side and working with sponsors and yeah, making this journey possible because we have partners that, um, yeah, he's helped guide of like, okay, they want to invest in you and help you out. How are you going to help them out? And it's always that two-way street working with sponsors. And yeah, he's guided that whole thing. So I am where I am because of Wadi. On the flip side, it can be, yeah, I would say that I guess the tougher side is just that marketing business side of things where he's so good at marketing. We have a YouTube channel, just everyday social media, those things. He's filming me every day, or yeah, just following me around with a camera, or always be marketing. So that's probably the only thing that we really like. He can tell pretty quickly if on a certain day I'm just like, I look at him like, get that camera out of my face, like not today. That's probably the only side of things where, but I mean, we're able to provide that kind of glimpse into this journey and bring people along, and people have enjoyed that, and we've gotten some great feedback of just seeing that, yeah, I guess close and personal look into what we do. And so I understand the importance of it, but some days it's just not yeah, not awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Having a camera in your face all the time and kind of having to be on has to be
Yeah,
challenging. It's not something that we all necessarily want to do all the time, and it's part of life now, right?
totally.
Yeah. And I mean, and with that, so I mean, part of what the storytelling that you do, in addition to being an extremely high level athlete, the storytelling is part of how you deliver value to sponsors and bring people into your world and what you're doing. Do you see it as an instrument to help you influence people in other ways beyond delivering value to your sponsors and being able to have the career you have?
I think so, for sure. I think, I mean, it obviously delivers value for sponsors, but I think more that I get out of it are just the messages I receive, or chatting with people at races who follow mostly the YouTube channel has been the big one, where we meet so many people at races. They're like, we watch your YouTube. Like, I had it on the trainer. I was going to skip my workout today, but I had your video up, and I just, yeah, it made me do my workout, or it made me not skip my run, or it got me out the door on the day. And to have I'm not doing it like with that in mind, but that is a effect of it is just, it makes me feel like on the days that I don't want to record or, be into that, it's like, okay, you know what? We've received so much good feedback that it is like maybe inspiring people. It is helping people get out the door when they don't want to, or on an off day. Like that for me is the motivation behind it for sure. Especially on tough days. It's like, that's to be able to maybe take it beyond my racing at some point, whenever that might end, to then also continue with like inspiring people to go after things that they want to do, or just motivating them day to day of getting out the door and living a healthy life. I think that's definitely a longer term thought as well for me with some of this stuff.
Is there a framework for the kind of storytelling that you like to do? Like, is there a kind that you enjoy the most or that you find to be most effective?
To be honest, we're literally playing around with that
Yeah.
with our different, like, we've kind of taken a bunch of different approaches. Waddy is super, super creative. He loves kind of the bigger, overarching kind of movie like pieces that tell a longer story. We found a lot of people just like the straight up vlogs where he's literally following me around in the kitchen and then out onto the trainer in the garage, and I'm like puking, doing intervals. Like, it's crazy, the differences of, yeah. And then we have the full pieces around a certain race and how races go. So we're trying to dial in right now of, things that we like. I think the mixture has been good. Like, you never know almost like you never know what you're going to get with each one, but it's interesting. I think as long as we're just kind of giving a glimpse on the day, on the training, or where we're at in the season, or leading into a certain race, it's mostly just about being, just showing it authentically and being like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, completely. And you mentioned briefly the idea of like what's on the other side of your career as a professional athlete. And again, it seems like at this point, like the vast majority of your life has been completely dedicated to extremely high level or professional sports, right?
Totally.
So, yeah. So when you just think of yourself as like you, Heather, the professional athlete, but you, Heather, the human being, what does Heather, the human being, want to get out of her time on planet Earth?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's definitely something I've been like working on the last, couple of years of like, okay, well, I'm still racing at a high level, and I want to race the best I can at a high level for as long as I can. But I know there is a end point where I won't be at that pointy end. And what would I want to be doing with my days? And the ability to still be able to be outdoors, to be active, to do these epic adventures, in some sort of capacity, whether that's helping other people reach their goals, where I can use the knowledge I've learned at these events, these different sports, and help them get there. I think working with kids at some point kind of inspires me. I remember when I was 10, 12, like at that time I was soccer, ice hockey, but like I remember going to a soccer camp and Mia Hamm was there and some of the US national team players. And to me, it was this like, not comparing myself to Mia Hamm at all. I'm using that as an example, but like inspiring girls to, or females or whoever, inspiring whoever to want to like focus in on something that they absolutely love. Like I played soccer every day after school for hours and hours. It's all I cared about. And to show, okay, you put that dedication in, this could be your life. And to, I guess have that kind of aspect at some point would be, I think, something I would love to do for sure.
And when you were a kid, what got you into sport and into soccer? Was that something that your family was really into, or did you just encounter it and like had a knack for it and really took to it?
My mom was a phys ed teacher, and so she had us in every single sport. I think largely just as like a childcare outlet of like, nope, we have a basketball game this afternoon. You're going to be in it, basically. I mean, we were on all teams. I also have three siblings, so there were four of us, and so I think it was just a matter of like there was so much energy, so much like competitiveness in the family, just of the kids. Like we had our own. I mean, every day after school, if there wasn't kind of a school league event, we were in the street playing street hockey, like two on two, just the four of us, or there were some neighborhood kids as well. So I mean, we were always outside, always competing, always. Yeah, and so my parents had us in different. My sister was a gymnast, my brother was ice hockey, I was mainly soccer, and then got jealous of my brother playing ice hockey, got into ice hockey. So I attribute everything, to my parents sacrificing that and putting us on those teams and bringing us to all the practices. And I mean, I can't imagine when I think back on their schedule. My dad driving my sister to gymnastics, my mom bringing me and my brothers to ice hockey, then to soccer. Like it was just what they did was, I'm so grateful to them.
So, three siblings. I've got to ask, what's your birth order? Where are you in the family?
I have a brother, or I guess he's a little over maybe 2 years older. I'm next. Then my other brother is 1 year after me, and then my sister's 1 year after him. So it literally was 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
They had us like on leashes, basically.
Wow. That's that's a lot. So we could say you're middle-ish. You're a middle-ish child.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So there was a lot of sibling rivalry in a very positive way, it sounds like.
Yeah, mostly positive.
Mostly positive. I bet it got a bit violent at times. I've got two brothers. I know how it goes.
Exactly. I can say I was the most competitive, so I was like, had to beat them all every time over everything.
So with that, as a competitor, did you feel like whatever you were doing, whether it was sports or something at school, were you someone who like always had to win, or did it show up in a fun and friendly way?
No, it was bad. I had to win, and I would get very upset or angry if I didn't. So very competitive in the sports I was doing, and then also just with myself, like schoolwork, like had to be the best student, had to have the best grades. And it was very intense, probably.
Yeah, and so over the course of your athletic career, have you found ways to manage that and turn it off when it's not useful? And if so, like what are those things that you do to downregulate or relax and kind of shut this stuff off?
Yeah, I would say it's tamed down a bit, where I don't get like, I think I have a wider view now, and it's like, okay, you don't win a race, it's not the end of the world. I think early on, though, even in my 20s, when I had just met Wadi and I was getting into triathlon over the team sports, I wouldn't hit a workout on a certain day and I would be in tears, like mad at myself and angry. So I think just probably partly with age, partly with just maturity in sport and knowing, okay, it's sport. It is, we're choosing to do this. It's not the end of the world. There are much bigger kind of world problems out there for sure. So I think I'm a little bit calmer with it. I do, to your question, like to kind of step away on, say, my recovery days, or even once the training is done on the day. Like I do my training, and then whether it's yoga or I take a lot of Epsom salt baths, or just stepping away so your mind isn't always on that goal that you're going after, that athletic thing of like, okay, I did the training today, tomorrow I have this. And it's like this nonstop amped up kind of, lifestyle where you do need to kind of step away and relax. I'll read a lot of books just so I'm not thinking about, okay, tomorrow I have, this run to do or ride or, so I think that is important, just to kind of shut things off. Yeah.
What do you like to read?
Uh, I'm not a good, it's a lot of just like crime,
Oh yeah.
read, nothing like, it's tough because I have all these intentions of like, I do like a lot of autobiographies on like athletes or just like, nonfiction kind of, yeah, historical pieces. But you finish training and you sit down to try to read one of those and your mind is just, I'm so tired. It's so hard. But like, just, yeah, like a basic kind of quickie crime novel, it's, you can work your way through. So that's the give and take. I don't have any like good high end.
No, I mean, it's not like there's a better kind of book to read, in my
Yeah,
opinion. I think like whatever people read is great. I probably have, this might sound kind of weird. I have like 10 books underneath my bed. So
totally.
I'm just like, what, like where, just like you said, like, where is my brain at this moment? How much gas is in the tank, and like which book will serve me in this moment? And
Totally.
it really runs the gamut. I'd probably be embarrassed to say the names of some of those books, but whatever. Like sometimes, just like I've got nothing left. I need that one, right?
Totally. I love that. Yeah, that's how I am actually. Usually I have a stack of books somewhere in the bath or near the bed for sure.
Yeah. So kind of just to jump back for a minute to soccer and hockey. So as you progress through your athletic career, and I'm thinking about this in relation to Heather, the total killer hyper competitor. So as you kind of like start shifting between these different sports, because hockey, you were playing at a high enough level that like the Olympics were potentially in the cards, and then you've shifted into triathlon, then track cycling, then triathlon again. As you had those different transitions, what did it feel like at those moments when you shifted to something else? Did it feel intentional and positive, or did you feel like you hadn't gotten to where you wanted to go, for example, with hockey?
Yeah, that's a good question because I think I think every time I've transitioned to a new venture, it's always been positive in terms of the second I get going with it. Like I remember, um, yeah, when I first got into triathlon, I was hooked immediately, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" It was so new and different. But every single time, the transition has been with the previous sport very kind of, yeah, top of my mind of like things I didn't accomplish. So I've always, I think, kind of used that as motivation in the next one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, in 2000, I was trying for the 2006 Winter Olympic Games in Torino for ice hockey, and I didn't make the cut for the team. And that also coincided with my senior year of college. So for women at the time in 06, 07, there really wasn't anything after that. So it wasn't like I could go play in the NHL. It was just college hockey was done. I think there were a couple minor league teams, but not really. There are more now for sure. But it was kind of like, what now? I didn't make the Olympics. That's all I've been doing. It's all I know with my life. And I was at home in New Hampshire, and my parents were going to a local try up at Cannon Mountain. And they were like, come with us. Like, I had a mountain bike I had from growing up and did the triathlon on that at Cannon Mountain, New Hampshire, and was hooked. I was just like, the first time I raced myself, not a team sport. And so I feel lucky that, yeah, I went with them to that because it made me all of a sudden that kind of all in extreme mindset shifted from hockey, and I didn't make the Olympics to, okay, I'm going to do this. What's the biggest event? Like, okay, Kona, this Ironman World Championships, like this is, I was all in from like day one. And then all through triathlon, I would use kind of things I had learned in hockey or just kind of that disappointment. I think I would think back on it randomly, like you didn't, if you do this now, like the, like I would in my mind doing a hard effort, say I had like a 10-minute interval to do, like in my mind I would be saying to myself, if you hit this power, you make the Olympic team. Like I would have these things in my mind that would motivate me during say super hard efforts or intervals, and use that kind of disappointment in training and then in racing, like get up to that girl up there on the bike, that's like you getting selected, like using that. So I definitely used it throughout most of triathlon. And then now I've shifted triathlon into gravel and ultra. And a lot of times in my ultra running, I'll picture like I'm running on a lead drive and I'll say like, get up to the girl up there. This is you getting to the lead in Kona. And so I still use, the things from previous sports in these new ventures as motivation and as like digging deeper, because I definitely have left each one kind of with things that I didn't necessarily accomplish that maybe I wish I had, but I also think, okay, it's kept me going this long of like these new goals, and I can use all of that stuff I learned in the previous ones now. So it's been this interesting kind of journey.
I find the way athletes talk to themselves and their internal monologue while competing and in training to be incredibly fascinating. Would you mind sharing more about what it is it like for you during competition specifically? And it sounds like you're someone who is very present and you go more deeply into the experience and you have certain things that motivate you. Some people dissociate. It seems like people who are highly successful don't dissociate from the pain. They go into it and they sit in it and then they have some kind of talk with themselves. So would you mind saying more about what your experience of that is like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly, it's definitely an interesting, I guess, variety of things I go to. My husband asked me about this in a YouTube we were going to do, maybe still to come, but I always am like, I don't want to scare people with some of the things I go to because I have different things in my mind that come depending on the day. Again, I think similar to books and what book you're reading on the day. Like if you just need an easy read, or you have more energy on the day. It's the same with my mindset of if I have a hard bike session to do on the day and I'm in a certain mood, I go to a certain thing. And anywhere from using kind of my competitors, if I'm in like a race mindset and I'm like, okay, you have 30 seconds on right now, 30 seconds off. Like this is the start of the race. This is you getting on, say, Sophia's wheel or one of my competitors' wheel. Everything right now, this is you getting on her wheel. And I'll use race-like scenarios from the past, and how I foresee maybe a race going of like, okay, I'll use that for my efforts. Some days I am not in like as focused on a certain race and I don't have that kind of go-to there. And I'll use like, a lot of times I use, I don't want to come off as morbid, but like my grandparents have both passed, and I say to myself, they were my biggest supporters with my parents. And I'll say to myself, like, you push now, you hold, 280 watts for the next minute. Like you get another 10 minutes with Data, who is my grandpa. And it's like, I go to things beyond, like way beyond like what I care the most about, and to have 10 more minutes with him if I do this, and that doesn't even equal any amount of pain in my legs for that 1 minute that I'm doing an interval if I had that with him. And so I go to these things that are like way deeper. If that makes sense. And
Yeah.
any day that comes into my mind, it's insane. Like and those are just come to my, another one is like, this one's horrible, but I had like 30 seconders, and in my head I was like, Stevie, my puppy, is in the road, and if you hold over 400 watts right now for 30 seconds, you'll get to her before the car gets there. And it's like, and I want to try to think of some positive ones because I don't want to come off as this negative person, but it's what drives you to dig the deepest you ever would, the things that you care about. My grandpa, my puppy, like, gets me way beyond what I would think I could do pushing a bike pedal. And I use those, to dig deep when I have to.
And I mean, given that that's where your head's at when you're competing, and that part of like gravel and ultra running specifically is people get to interact with the professional athletes like you. They really enjoy that. And the expo area the day before, and maybe even the morning of the race, people are like, "Oh my God, it's Heather Jackson!" and is that challenging at all for you to kind of mentally juggle that, because there's a space that you need to be in, and I don't know when that flip that
Mhm.
switch like actually flips for you? Is it like when the gun goes off, or is your head already there, like when you're riding over to the starting line for Unbound and maybe somebody wants an autograph or a selfie or something?
I think it's I actually do I think it took me a bit to not, yeah, get I guess frazzled with that. For me, it's still like, oh my God, someone wants to say hi to me. Like, oh, cool. Like, thank you so much. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
always, if someone wants to say hi to you, for me, it's like, okay, like that's cool. That's really cool. And for me, it kind of takes the pressure off that start line that's kind of looming and takes that mind off of it. I think it's usually at the very starts of races, it's those final like 3-minute countdowns. And at even an Unbound, there's this massive clock that's been counting down since however long, 30 minutes out or whatever. Same at Western States this year. It was the weirdest start line I've ever been on, because usually at races there's like music playing or there's this like loud energy of people getting ready, and it was like silence, but there was just this clock up above the start line, and it was just everyone was just watching it but in silence, and it was so weird, so just like different, I guess. Yeah, but I would say, I think, yeah, the mind switches, yeah, in those final few minutes, and then the second that the race starts, it's on. But I don't mind the like kind of like distractions before of saying hi to someone or like
Yeah.
wishing them good luck, because it's almost like a takes your mind off it.
Yeah, and I mean it totally varies from person to person, of course. I've in my professional career, I've prepared and coached a lot of people to be in extremely high stress, high consequence environments where they're going to have to go perform in a different way than a professional athlete will. And some people are extremely state sensitive, and like you have to be really careful about what you're doing and how you help them manage their energy. So it's always
Totally.
interesting to me to hear how different people respond to that. And again, I think it's awesome that in professional cycling and ultra running, fans can have proximity to athletes, and like there's a dance there, like there's something going on for these people about to do these extraordinary things that it's not on everybody's mind all the time. But
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing about triathlon and gravel and ultra. Like everyone's doing the same thing. And so yeah, everyone gets to be on that same start line, and everyone's about to ride 200 miles.
yeah, yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about your interview with that triathlon life, and something that really jumped out at me in that interview is it seems like your entire triathlon career you did not love swimming. So it was very it was very interesting to me that you were able to like do something that you didn't enjoy very much that was such a core part of what you had to do as a triathlete. And how did you get yourself to do that?
Oh my gosh, exactly.
And maybe you could you like describe your relationship with swimming for people who maybe haven't listened to that interview?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So my swimming, I mean, I didn't start swimming. My grandpa had a pool in his backyard, so I knew how to, I guess, stay above water, but I never swam. It was probably the one sport I didn't do. So my whole experience growing up with water was when it was frozen for hockey. So I started swimming when I was, yeah, 22, 23. And I think early on, it was I never liked it. I was never like, yay, can't wait to get to the pool. But I was seeing enough improvements, like over sessions or over year to year, that those first probably 5 or 6 years, um, it wasn't, I was, yeah, like I just said, I never enjoyed it, but I did enjoy the fact that I would see progress. So I would go from whatever, a 2-minute 100, all of a sudden I was down to a minute 50 for it. And the work I was putting in was showing progress. But then later on in my career, I got to the point where I was putting in the same amount of work or more, even more. I was swimming more. I was working with all these different swim coaches. I was investing so much time and energy and money and everything, and traveling places, like living new places just to work with a certain coach. And I was still swimming that like one, whatever it is, for 100. And like when you go year after year and there's no improvement and you can't seem to get it, and you try all these new mindsets with it, all these new techniques, starting all over again from scratch. And it gets to be where you're just like, okay, well, like I've given everything, and that's where the now what? Like, what should we do? Because yeah, it's swimming is so hard too. That is probably the most frustrating thing for me, is that um, the harder you work doesn't mean you're going to go faster. And to the TTL podcast you keep referencing, if you asked Paul and Eric, like I would come to every swim session with them, because for me they're so good, they're so much better than me. I'm only going to learn from them and try to get faster. They would tell you that I was working probably quadruple as hard as they are in the pool, like just every day, everything I had to try to find improvements. And it's like I was going slower, because the harder you go in water, it's almost like, yeah, you can't muscle your way through it. It's technique based. You have to feel the water, you have to flow with it, all these things. And I just never got that feel.
And so what specifically did you dislike about it though? Other than it, like, it's extremely hard to progress, it's highly technical. What would be your feeling when you would be in the pool swimming and doing the workouts? Like, was it just, this sucks, it's boring? Like, I'm sorry, sort of generally the feelings I have when I try to swim for a long time. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, it's more that you're working super hard. I always felt like I was going to drown because I'm breathing so hard. I'm just wheezing, sucking in air. Every fourth breath, I'm getting like a mouthful of water. I mean, and you're just going back and forth, like staring down at a black line. And then in 30 seconds, flip turning, which I didn't even start flip turning till later in my career, because I would get water in my ear, up my nose every single time. It was just not enjoyable. You're just wet, cold, drowning, going back and forth at 30-second intervals, back and forth, hitting a wall, back and forth. And it was just, yeah, it was that kind of mouse wheel you were talking about, where it's just, you just have to lock in and do it for a purpose, not because you're enjoying at all what you're doing.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you sought out all kinds of different experts to help you with swimming. When you think about like the full arc of your career as an athlete and a person, who do you think of as the people who've been real force multipliers that have helped you to elevate beyond maybe what you thought was possible, or have, helped you tap into something within yourself, have given you insights that have propelled you forward?
That's such a good one. I feel like I have so many people that I would bring up for different reasons. I mean, I think first to mind, overarching, is just my husband Waddy, who, I mean, he oversees everything in terms of like, he sees me every single day, and like everything I go through, the hard workouts I do, if I wake up and I'm feeling horrible, but I might have training on my schedule for whatever coach I was working with at the time, and he's like, doesn't matter, go to the couch, like you're tired, you're gonna get sick, versus going to do that workout. Or I think he really has taught me the most about listening to my body, and just also just race tactics, having raced himself, and just seeing the different progressions we've gone through in triathlon and the new sports. But like, why wouldn't you he has this very like realistic mindset of like, why wouldn't you do this, or why wouldn't you approach the race this way? Or so always having kind of that second view on things, training, racing. And he's been there my entire career, from literally when I was 23 till now. So he's certainly, I guess, the biggest component of this whole journey. I think yeah, I would feel bad, I think, listing some coaches, because then
Yeah,
I would
no, that's cool.
leave others out. But yeah, certainly have had the opportunity to work with some really great coaches who have brought different styles of training. I think over my triathlon career, I tried a couple different styles of training, and that helped me in the end now to know the athlete I am now, of what works better, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, that something you just mentioned is really interesting to me, because part of what you have to do and really in all domains of life, and certainly as a professional athlete, is you have to push beyond what you believe might be possible and do stuff that, in the case of endurance sports, it feels pretty horrible. And as you mentioned, you also, the best professionals know when to like shut it down, right? And when it's like, yeah, actually, this isn't going to help me. I need to go rest today. I don't need to go do I don't need to go run down the highway that's like an 18% grade and destroy my quads. Is that something that you've been able to tune more as you get deeper into your professional career, or is that a balance that you've always had?
I think no, for sure, something that I think has come with kind of time in the sport, time in training as an endurance athlete, and just learning from past mistakes. I can't tell you the number of years in a row early in my career. I would always start my season at Oceanside 70.3. It was kind of the massive kickoff North American racing on the triathlon calendar. And I would have such a great build every single year. I always started my training Jan 1st, and it was basically, yeah, a 4 month build, or I guess three and a half month build towards mid-April for Oceanside. And I think 3 or 4 years in a row in my early days, like I would need to nail that final workout the weekend before, just like one more time. Like I would already be on the edge from having trained hard for 3 months. And that final Saturday, 1 week out, I would need to do that final brick workout and nail the efforts, the power, run super hard off. And it was like I was racing myself then versus leaving it for the race. And I was leaving it out there 1 week out versus just using it as, a check-in. Maybe only go 80% that day because you have the race 1 week later, not leaving it out there then. And I would wake up, I would go all in because I wanted to see, how fit I was, that I was ready, prove I was ready there, not on race day. And then I'd wake up Sunday sick. And I think because I was already on the edge, I was like, yeah. And I would come into Oceanside race week with a cold. And that happened like 2 or 3 years in a row because I was just so amped for the race. I needed that final hard workout. I was, yeah, had been pushing things for 12 weeks, and then boom. So it's like knowing, okay, that final workout, nailing that isn't what you're trying to hit. You're trying to hit the race. Um, and then just using that's just an example that comes to mind, but within training as well, like day to day, week to week. I mean, one day taken easy or even just to the couch over going out because it says on your program you have a 4 hour ride when in your gut that you don't feel right or you feel a little under the weather and that you could go do the ride, but you also feel borderline like a cold is coming, that it's taken that time to be like, okay, it's not worth it. Then you're out for the next week to 10 days with a cold or longer. So having I think, maturity to say, no, I need the rest day, even though my program says this, that's taken years and years for sure to be okay with.
What loss bothers you the most? Is there a specific race that just slipped through your fingers that still bothers you today?
Wildflower Triathlon 2017, I think it was. It's either I think it's 17. Yeah. Whew. Wildflower Triathlon was my first ever win as a professional. It also happened to be my most favorite race ever. It was such an epic party. It was so fun. And then I went on to win it 15, 16. I won it 5 times, but there was a year in there where it was just this crazy race, battle between, there were 3 or 4 of us at the front, and actually a good friend of mine had gotten off the front, Rach McBride, and they had a lead all the way up until probably 3 miles to go. And I finally got up to them and I was like, oh my God, I got it. And then there's this long downhill run into the finish line in the finish chute. And Liz Lyles, who I was friends with her, we shared the same coach at the time, but she was an exceptional runner. She got me in the finishing chute, like 10 yards out, just sprinting down. And that was my not even that lost and to get past in the chute, but it was like that was my race. I was on like a 3-year streak with it, and I was just devastated. It's the only one that I was just like, yeah, devastated.
Yeah, that it hurts hearing about it. So I can only imagine what it feels like to be
I
the
can show you
person who
the
experienced.
I can show you
Yeah.
in a shoot photo. Every time I see it, I'm like, no.
I guess conversely, what victory do you consider to be the most transformative that you've gotten to experience?
The most transformative. I mean, I think the biggest victory that for me means the most, I won Escape from Alcatraz triathlon in 2013, and that should have been a race I should not even have been close to the front. I mean, given the swim alone, I had gotten a late entry. Someone had dropped that it used to be where they just invite 15 pros, and a good friend of ours called and was like, someone can't make it. Like, do you want an entry? And I was like, holy crap. Cause I was early in my career. I was not a good swimmer. Not that I ever was, but that was like, oh my God, I'm going to swim from a boat to shore in kind of the bay where you can get sucked out to sea. I've heard all these things, but it was one of those like, this is a bucket list race. This is one of the races coming into the sport that I had heard of and was like, Escape from Alcatraz. And yeah, it was just a crazy day. I think, I don't know what I was back out of the water. I want to say 7 minutes to the lead ish. But Wadi and I had gone to San Francisco like a week early, scouted the bike course. I actually rode my road bike instead of my triathlon bike. And we like went over every corner on that course, practiced cornering all the corners, just, yeah, covered everything. And so got out of that water and just went to work and somehow, yeah, found my way to the front of it and to break the tape at that race that for me was always one of the iconic races beyond like the Akona and some of the other big ones. It was like to have that title now means the most to me because of the difficulty of that kind of that course and that swim mainly.
Yeah, and clearly it's still meaningful today. When you actually won the race, how long did the high last afterwards?
uh, um, I would say a good I think now I look back on it more fondly than I did in the moment. The high lasted. So after races in the early on in my career, we I think celebrated properly. I mean, we used to take a full recovery week and like party and just I think after that one especially if it went well. I mean, after that one, we went to Napa. We were in the Bay Area with my sister and brother-in-law, and we were like 3 days just going to different wineries and hanging out. And I probably didn't train at all. Like now, it's crazy. The second races end, like people are back on the trainer, like spinning the legs out or recovery run later in the day. I mean, the high performance side is definitely next level compared to I think some of those earlier grassroots days when it was like, okay, you got a week to recover, then we ease back into training, and we would take those weeks. And yeah, I remember after a lot of races, it would be 3, 4, 5 days of just yeah, not even anything related to the sport, just yeah, celebrating.
That sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And when you look forward at this season and beyond, what are the events that you would most like to win? And I'm not asking you to call your shots here, but if you want to, you can. Like, what would you really, really like to win? What would be the most meaningful things that are left for you to achieve in your career at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think I certainly have the races I'm targeting this year, and I want to, yeah, I guess I can put that out there. I want to win them. I'm not training as hard as I do not to try to go for that, for sure. So, but I think the ones I really am eyeing are the San Diego BWR. I want to go back to that one and really try to perform well there. Unbound, SBT gravel in August and Big Sugar in October. I would say those are the four that I really just want to show up at and have my eye on. And on the running side, I mean, Western States is Western States. It's the biggest one in North America. Have an entry to it. It's yeah, I didn't make it to the finish last year. That one is on the running side, really kind of what I'm targeting right now. So those events on my calendar are highlighted in gold. Some of the others are maybe a different color, but those I would say are my focus this season.
And if we were to look out 2 or 3 years, do you have anything up your sleeve that you haven't disclosed yet? Or are we going to see you do Tour Divide? Are you going to do a Lachlan Morton? Like, what have you got, Heather?
Totally. It's so funny you called that out. I love Lachlan. I don't know him that well. I mean, I see him at some races, but yeah, I mean, I think what he does is just epic. And yeah, I certainly want to um, race at a high level at these events that I'm at right now. But I mean, yeah, certainly a Tour Divide, Colorado Trail, an AZT, maybe a ride the AZT and run the AZT, something epic like that. I think that's definitely the direction I'm going. Whether it's in another year or two, it's yeah, that's on my bucket list of something along those lines. Some of those longer epic events, going after something for sure.
Awesome. Well, Heather, thanks so much for being here today. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was great.